Hello, welcome to my booth. I'm Jay, as you well know. And I'm going to answer as many of your questions today as time allows. Probably kick this around for about an hour or so. See how many questions pop up and might stay longer if we need. Forgive me if I'm low energy at all. My day has been full of talking to myself. If you've got any questions, hey Seb. If you've got any questions, drop them in the chat. And if you need to leave, this will be played later. So feel free to hop in and out as you will. Seb, you had a question about how I got started in voiceover. And hey, Edwin. How I got started in voiceover was, by the way, is the music too loud or anything? I can't really tell. Let me know if any of that stuff is out of whack. But I always have been, always will be an actor, stage and screen, first and foremost, or at least I have done that most of my life. In 2015, I auditioned for the Yale School of Drama. And a mentor of mine in undergrad, she had taught there for many, many years. And she said, I think you should really consider it. And so I did. And in 2015, I auditioned, went through the whole process. It ended up not working out, which was good for me. And so on the heels of that sort of, hello. On the heels of that sort of reaching out to try for that, failing, I moved to New York with my now wife and tried to do the actor thing the old-fashioned way and auditioned a ton, was working in restaurants, the classic New York actor lifestyle. And in those years, I wasn't able to find a bunch of traction here in New York because as an actor, you're sort of expected to, there's the Actors Union for Stage and the Actors Union for Screen, that's AEA and SAG-AFTRA. And in AEA, I was doing principally theater at the time, and I was in sort of a catch-22 here in New York where you have to have credits in New York theaters to be able to work in New York theaters as an equity actor, and I didn't have New York credits, so it was just really hard for me to get any gigs, which was challenging for a long time. And so after a few years of sort of just trying and not really getting many bites, I decided to try again for grad school and again for Yale, and it again didn't work out, but I did audition for NYU, and that was the place. It was really curious how it just felt like home right out of the gate. And that was in 2017, 3 years, super intense actor training, 60-hour weeks, tons of shows. It's a class of 16 people, a really rigorous, that's cool, in the chat. I appreciate that. So I went to grad school for 3 years, and then, of course, 3 years in grad school, starting in 2017, I graduated into the pandemic. Our final day of classes was March 11th. My whole class was gathered around. We were just looking at each other, and we were like, it was at the point when none of us knew what COVID was going to be. And so when I graduated, if you go to a major bigwig acting conservatory, there's this thing called Showcase where it just kind of funnels you into the industry where agents, casting directors come and see you, and you, off the heels of that, or for a lot of reason, or hopefully for a lot of people, you're just sent off into your career. But with COVID, the entire entertainment industry was just dead. So our Showcase got more or less scrapped. And with the flight ticket that I was going to use to go out to LA, I bought myself a microphone and just started noodling around. I'd done little VO gigs, but it was never a full-time thing for me. And I just thought that it was going to be something that I would invest my time in while I could, because I just spent 3 years learning how to use all this acting skill, and I wanted to develop it, use it professionally. It was going to be my job. And so I ground it out. I worked on tons of stuff. It was 40 hours in my closet, just noodling around, learning all this stuff. Basically, the reason this channel exists is because I had no idea how to do any of that stuff. And it was really nice when people showed me the way, told me I wasn't crazy. And after about a year, well, in a couple months, I started to book small gigs here and there. And after about a year, I was making enough to, and this is after 6 months to a year of 40-hour weeks, grinding it out just blindly because I had no other recourse. We were still in lockdowns, especially here in New York. And that's kind of how I got started. And from there, I was fortunate to book a few pretty big gigs. I got a animated movie, which was really nice, Richard the Stork 2. It went out in European markets. I don't think it's streamable anywhere at this point, but that was a lot of fun to do. And then I ended up getting a big gig that I honestly don't know if the NDA is clear yet, so I can't really talk about it. But from there, got agents, worked on the thing, and for 3 years, this has been my full-time gig. And then, as I said, I'd been doing voiceover before, but never as a full-time career path. So that's how I got started. Is it Amu or Amu? Forgive me, I don't know how to pronounce. But I have too many microphones. They've been an accrual of years and just curiosity. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I've got 7 microphones. It is a winding origin story, certainly. But yeah, 7 microphones. Do I need them all? Absolutely not. It was sort of just, I'm curious about this one, curious about that one. And they grew. They grew from there. 8 microphones, yeah. Yeah, it's a disease that many of us fall prey to, I think. Not a bad one, fortunately. Where did it go? Trying to pull up the... Yeah, I've got 3 Neumanns myself. I had other folks. Oh, well. I don't know what sound card I'm using. I'm running out of a Mac Studio. That's the computer that I work with. Not the top tier version. It's the little square guy, but Preston, hey. The biggest mistakes I made early in my career, or that I learned from or wish I had avoided. That's a great question. My first gig was a long, 8-hour meditation series or something like that. And I put so much darn pressure on myself to get it right, to make sure it was perfect. And I just wish that I was easier on myself in so many respects. I was a big, I need to control all factors, huge imposter syndrome in every respect, which is part of the reason why I have so many microphones, because I bought one. My first was the Rode NT1, and it was a fantastic microphone, but I got it in my head that I needed to have top tier gear so that there was no reason anybody could possibly say no to me. And that's just a load of baloney. It was a load of baloney, and I wish I had understood that sooner and been gentler with myself. Also, I wish that I had understood sooner. I think it was sort of a journey that was helpful, maybe even necessary to take. We've all been there where we spend hours tooling on the same audition, trying to get the perfect take, cutting things together, and it just doesn't exist. And in fact, as I've said sometimes on this channel before, usually my first take is the one that's the best, or one of the first three, so I hardly ever do anything besides that. Now, a lot of goes into that is I have years of theater experience, lots of Shakespeare experience, which oddly enough helps me with like sight reading and stuff, with really complex texts and all that. But I wish I was just gentler with myself overall. That's probably the biggest mistake. Dubbing for movies. Yeah, Lauten audio mics. I've been interested in trying them. I wish I could try them without buying them, because I always buy them and then, you buy them thinking, I'll return it if I don't like it, and I haven't. Neumann or Rode? I think Rode is great for entry. Neumann is just such an industry standard that honestly, the main reason I have the U87 is because some clients will request it and or they'll see it represented on something. Hey, Van Deen. Good to hear you from the UK. Most of the Neumanns that I have are there because engineering studios that you work with, and this is if you're doing like Source Connect, direct live sessions, occasionally they'll like the options, but that's just a bonus. If you can offer that to them, you don't need it. So I think a Rode NT1 could cover you for your whole career if you want to upgrade or become a gearhead. And then as you progress, having a 103 or a U87 can be helpful to have in the studio. And yeah, the U87, as far as the price, diminishing returns, it's probably not worth it for 90% of folks. Again, I have it because people will see it on my materials and be like, oh, this person has this available. They clearly have a status, but is it necessary? No. There was another question that somebody had about, what was it? How to interpret scripts. Their question was, if you get a script and it doesn't say how to craft it, like if it doesn't say, we're looking for a dark read, or we want this to be conversational or jovial, how do you know how to intone it? And a lot of that can be intuited from the script itself in a lot of respects. And honestly, the benefit of it is, in a lot of respects, your read of it, however you choose to interpret, is going to be representative of your style, your brand, and just letting that be what it's going to be is really, really a release for, or at least it was for me. So in terms of interpreting scripts, firstly, just trusting your own instincts is a really big boon. And then you can intuit from the script if it's going to be sort of emotional or if it's going to be a just straightforward conversational read. It's a little difficult to do without examples, and I'm wary to bring up an example that I haven't cleared copyright-wise, blah, blah, blah. But you can also, at the end of the day, just try different things. And oftentimes that can yield really interesting results because, yeah, sure, a lot of scripts are going to be looking for a specific thing, which may be within your wheelhouse, it may be in your control, it may be not. But in all cases, you don't have to worry about it because you can't control any of that. And so in reading a script, if you try it sort of the way that you would expect it to be read, the sort of crazy way, and then maybe a way that's completely inverse to what you might expect, can be, what is it? Sorry. The chat moves and I'm not used to it, and I'm very dog-like, where if it's like a squirrel, I'll run over there. So if I dart this way, I'm looking at the chat. Yeah, that would be my recommendation for intuiting scripts. Just try it a few different ways. Trust your instincts, and take notes from the script itself. You can sort of get a feeling on how maybe it may be angled, if it's going to be sentimental or something. You are very welcome for running this today. Firstly, I only speak English. I speak a little Spanish, but poorly. A fourth book deal, a compilation of 3 books already recorded. Congrats. The author wants to pay for open close credit files and not production. Wants to pay for open close credit files and not production. Joni, would you mind explaining a little bit more about your question? I'm just not quite clear on what you're asking. Do I get projects from India? I don't know. I don't think so. Audiobooks. Tips performing female voices, or is it still a conundrum? This is sort of up to the narrator themselves. Whatever you're comfortable with is what I would say is probably the best way to go. I recently did a book called The Quiet Room, out now, where there was this particular scene. My character, the narrator for my portion of the book, was obviously male, but there was a scene where the male narrator was in a room with 4 female characters, which was a first for me and really, really challenging because each of the 4 characters had pretty distinct accents. So in those 4 characters, I had to do really subtle differences of like, this one's going to sort of have a raspier voice in a mid-tone. This one's going to be clearer in a high tone. So with female voices, my usual method is simply to just pitch up a little bit and have it be a sort of clearer tone. So this is my natural speaking voice. And then if a woman enters the room, it's just a little bit softer vocally and a little bit pitched up. And my tone sort of changes. I don't know how accurate this is, but in terms of Scott Brick told me this at one point, not me personally, but I heard him say this, that if you listen to female speech pattern versus male speech pattern, the female speech pattern has different sort of music to it than male speech pattern does. And so with female speech pattern, you can sort of lean into the pattern of the voice rather than sort of an inflection or a voice. You don't have to make it a female voice. So that would be my big angle. My normal pitch is just this one here. And yeah, then in terms of the textures, for all characters, I'll have like, this is my baseline. And then for, if the character's gruffer, I'll maybe introduce a little bit of texture down low, lower pitch. Or if they're higher, they might have a higher pitch. But the main thing with any vocal choice is if I cannot sustain it indefinitely, meaning forever, I do not make that choice, because I've run into scenarios where your voice gets tired, blown out, and it's not worth it. Now, if it's a character that's a one-off where it's one line and they have to be like, well, hello, then you can be gruff with it or something, but I wouldn't go too far in that respect. With characters in general, no one's under the illusion in audiobooks that it's not one person doing all the voices. So it's kind of up to you, because there are some narrators that go the extra 9 yards. They'll really, really do a lot of really various voices, but you don't need to. There are other ones that will just sort of change the music. What was another thing that I was gonna... Yeah, interesting. The 103 is too sibilant for you. Yeah. Again, the reason why I like the NT1 Van Dien. I wish I still had it. I sold it to a friend. It'd be nice to have for this. My studio is located just in my home. That's the benefit of the studio bricks. And the reason why I chose the studio bricks over other sort of isolation booths, even the one that I built, which was very good in and of itself, was the aesthetic of it. In my opinion, whisper rooms are just giant felt boxes, and a lot of them are of that sort of design, and it was going to have to be in my living room. So I wanted something that looked nice in my home. So that was the choice for the studio bricks there. My longest recording in one take, I couldn't tell you. Professional audiobook sessions, it's not one take, but if I'm working with a publisher where I've got a director and an engineer with me, a director and or an engineer, those sessions can be long. They can be very long. They last, they'll be scheduled for like 6 to 7 hours, and you're just cruising. So you'll record probably 2 to 3 hours of an audiobook in any given day, depending on how clean you are, meaning how well you can read. Yeah, and so those are long haul. I'm getting better at them now, but this is my only profession. I do this full time. I'm in this box as long as it takes. Yeah. What else? Let me dig up my folder of questions. And if there are technical questions, this is just tea. Thanks for that, Sab. Let's see. How do I get to it? This is nice. The state, well, really quickly, I'm always wearing a cap just because it's convenient for me. I often get sweaty in my booth, and it just became habit after a time to wear. Keeps my hair out of my way and all that jazz. And now it's a trademark, so I've got to do it forever. The state of voiceover and new people coming in. For new folks coming in, the state of voiceover, I have mixed feelings about it because A, I'm in the thick of it, but also for folks coming in, it's, how is it? For folks coming into voiceover, already it's a really, really competitive industry, and I was sort of blessed in my starting of it because I was starting at like my full-time go for it was during the pandemic. I was on unemployment, so I didn't have to worry about supplemental income while I was trying to make a go of my voiceover career and business. So I was able to invest a lot of time up front, which I think folks now maybe don't have that luxury. So in that respect, it's challenging because it does just take time to break in. I'm a big proponent of, as long as you are true to who you are, your own voice, you don't try and sound like anyone else, eventually the noise will filter out and you'll find your niche. For folks starting out, at least the way I did it, I cast my net wide. I was fishing in every pond I could think of: audiobooks, commercials, animation, video games, any site I found, I would post a profile, Voices, Voice123, Upwork, Fiverr, etc. Anything I found, And I just kept auditioning. I submitted probably 2,000 auditions in my first year, and I just saw what hit. And the places where I started to get traction was where I started to invest more and more energy, to where now I have the benefit of knowing when I see an audition come through that it's probably worth my time to audition for because I know it fits me, or I can pass because I know that I get passed on those a lot. And I've sort of built up my brand, as it were, my presence in a few places, to where now folks can reach out to me directly and I don't have to hunt for jobs as much, which is really great. Do I record with both headphone ear cups on or one ear? I used to really enjoy just one ear for exactly the reason you state, that it was easier for me to be more natural, like this. Now what I do, I actually use, contrary to my videos, I use open back in my booth here when I'm recording specifically because of airflow. It's cooler for me. I still get the same monitoring. But I also get my voice coming in more naturally. So it's similar to a closed back with just one off. And then if I'm doing a live session, I will use closed back, or dubbing, I'll use closed back headphones. But if I'm just recording by myself, I'll use open back just for comfort and exactly what you say, that it helps me feel more natural in a lot of respects, which is really nice. I wish I had known that earlier. But again, if I could only choose one pair of headphones, it would be closed back. I don't have bleed issues with the open back if it's just me. My monitoring latency is really, really non-existent. So I just haven't noticed it. Yeah. I do get bleed issues if I'm doing something where I'm having to dub over music or like punch in for an audiobook or something like that. Basically, anytime where it's more than just my voice in the recording session, I'll use closed back headphones. Do I have AC? No, but I do have I use this company called, what are they called? AC Infinity, I think. It's just a fan. It's like a duct boosting fan that runs really, really quietly. But in booths like this, they're structured so there's an intake at the bottom and an exhaust at the top. You can't really run fans attached to your booth, so I string it out the top and have the fan running so it just pulls hot air out. It doesn't keep it cool in here by any means. I'm already starting to sweat a little bit. But it does help with just like airflow, keeps it a little bit cooler. What is my opinion on websites for voice actors? Everybody has one. Do I think it's necessary? So for websites, in my opinion, they're sort of like a living resume for yourself, so that if and or when somebody gets a hold of your audio from whatever pool you were plopped into from wherever, they can go to your website, and it's sort of a marker of you and your brand, what you've done, how professional you are, and just how robust your business is. So really, it's sort of like a business. The big thing for me was a change for me when I was starting out as a VO, was when I shifted my thinking from myself as a actor, a voice talent, and I started thinking of myself as a small business. Because it's such a personal thing. It's your voice being put out into the world, and it's hard when things don't go your way, when you're criticized, when you're critiqued, blah, blah, blah. It's hard not to take it personally. So for me, reformatting as a small business, it helped me to sort of compartmentalize a ton of stuff. One of those things being the website, personal marketing, all that stuff, which are things that I really do not, or at least I did not enjoy. But now that I'm able to think of it sort of as a separate thing, it's just cleaner for me, and it feels healthier in my brain when it's not as personal. And it's a website specifically, Amun. The YouTube channel here is somewhat for marketing, somewhat so folks can find me, somewhat for my coaching. But mainly the reason this YouTube channel is here is because when I was starting out, I had no idea what I was doing, and I wanted help. And that's what this is for folks like me. And for new clients, most of my clients, people who are coming to me for voiceover jobs rather than help with their own voiceover business, they find me through my website or through other means and stuff like that. What else? Oh, but as far as a website, do I think it's necessary? If you don't want to do it, you don't need to. But as far as like building a professional brand for yourself, sorry, Joni's question just came up and it is interesting. They want to pay for the finished audio of the fourth book's opening and closing credit files only, and wants me to load the 58 files of the other 3 books. So Joni, if I understand correctly, they want you to upload the audio, and that's what they don't want to pay you for? Or is it they don't want to pay you to narrate the 4th book? Because that would be a problem. But congrats on the 4-book series. That's really cool. Hopefully. I hope it was cool. What else do we have here? Scrolling through comments. Contract stuff is always hard. That was another thing, Preston, to your earlier question that I wish I had known was always start with a contract. Always. Even if it's uncomfortable for you, always make people sign the contract. Make sure it's explicit. Make sure that it is geared in your favor, at least in terms of the work that you're going to do. And I don't mean geared in your favor like exploit anybody, but make sure that you're protected from all angles. I'm not a legal expert, but always start with a client and make sure that they are clear on all terms because, and I don't know why I was so shy about it, because when you send a client a contract, it's a mark of professionalism, similar to a website. When a client gets a contract from you to sign, they're like, oh, this person knows what they're doing, even if you maybe don't, as I didn't. But you're protecting them, you're protecting yourself, you're protecting the work. So always starting with a contract is really, really helpful. Living in NYC, it's a love-hate thing in a lot of respects. The summers here are horrid. They are really, really brutal summers here. And my wife and I it's like a wave every summer around the beginning of July through the second week of September. It's just rough here. Humid, hot, yeah. So that part, it has me questioning whether or not I want to leave or not. But then fall rolls around and you're in New York, and fall in New York is pretty incredible. And the tapestry of people and cultures here is really, you can't beat it. It's second to none. It's, yeah. So that's a big, big plus. My favorite headphones. I'm not a big headphone connoisseur, but I do like the Beyerdynamic 770 Pro and the 990 Pro just because they're nice and comfy, and they have a smooth frequency response that hi Laura, I was just thinking about you. I was wondering how your gig went, if you ended up taking it. I hope you did. But yeah, I like these ones because they have this nice velvet thing, which is cozy, it's comfy, and it keeps me from getting sweaty. I used the Audio-Technicas for a long time, and I would end sessions with just sweat pooled around. Oh no, they ghosted. Shame on them. It happens. It happens. Trust me, it happens. I've been ghosted, I think maybe 4 times in the last, I don't know. Yeah, I can imagine North Carolina gets... Wait, I didn't read the whole thing. I was thinking humidity. I was on a humidity train, so I thought North Carolina would be pretty humid. No, I'm sure you did. Pardon me. What else do we have here as far as questions? I hope you all have had a good week. I'm coming back from a cold, so I'm very grateful to be able to speak again. I don't know about y'all, but whenever I get a cold, actually that's something to talk about, I guess. Whenever I get a cold and working, I mean, it's hard when you're in voiceover and when it's your only job because it feels like it's all on you. So if you get a cold, you're sort of SOL. But when I got sick this last time, it was I'm going to take an absolute back seat. I slept for 2 days, essentially prioritizing recovery and not trying to limp along, just telling my clients, hey, listen, I'm sick. I'm going to get to it when I get to it, was really, really helpful. But lots of tea, saltwater gargles, the whole thing, the whole get better. But prioritizing my health first was a big, big thing. My favorite artist, I'm a big fan of Monet. My favorite mic, it mixes up. I'm a big fan of this one, the Earthworks Ethos. But as far as performing stuff, I couldn't tell you. I enjoy using the thing that I like about the 87 that I didn't really understand until I had a significant amount of time with it is it allows you to be really delicate with your performance, which wasn't something I really understood with less sensitive microphones, or at least microphones that aren't as sensitive as that one. Sometimes I found myself pushing in my performances a bit, and that one was just sort of like a wake-up call. I don't know that it's my favorite because it's so sensitive, but I enjoy using it. But if I had to pick one that I enjoy using a lot, this one's pretty high up there. Exercises for good vocals. There's actually a wonderful book called Freeing the Natural Voice. It's by Kristen Linklater. She is a vocal coach, vocal teacher. She has since passed, but she was big in the acting world for many, many years. And that book, Freeing the Natural Voice, it has a lot of the exercises that I learned in NYU in my grad school program. It's a really helpful book in terms of opening up in terms of freeing the natural voice. There's a lot of stuff in there that I really abide by in my own practice. So I'd give that one a look. Which area of VO do I enjoy the most? And which do I find I book the most? I really enjoy I do enjoy audiobooks. I enjoy narrating audiobooks quite a bit. But I also really enjoy, obviously, animated stuff, video games, because I get to act, and that's what I do principally. Um, and in audiobooks, I get to sort of be the director, cinematographer, and actor all in one, and it's just fun for me. And as far as booking the most, it really varies from season to season, but right now I'm booking a lot of audiobooks for whatever reason. What's next? Which works best in direct marketing or websites? For myself, sorry, I'll read it out loud. For casting, which works best for me in jobs, direct marketing, or casting websites? For a long time, I was just on casting websites because it was an easy flow from me to prospective clients, which was really, really helpful. And it was just less footwork for me. So I would say that websites have garnered the most work for me by per capita. But direct marketing, reaching out to people on like LinkedIn and stuff, or people coming to my website has garnered the most lasting relationships. So casting websites, I book the most work, but the few jobs that I've gotten from direct marketing have lasted me for years, which are probably the most valuable to me. Do I plan on writing my own book? I am writing. I'm planning actually on putting together some courses a la this channel for voiceover, audiobook narration, et cetera, which I'm looking forward to putting together. But as far as writing, I like writing short stories, working on a lot of those right now. It's kind of my other thing to sort of a creative release outside of this booth. If I get to 1 million subscribers, well, we're a ways off from there. So maybe come back to me when we get closer. But if you've got some ideas, throw them my way. Clicks in your recordings, Laura. What do I recommend to remedy that? So the biggest thing is just staying hydrated as you can. It's not a quick fix. It's a thing that you gotta kind of keep up with over the long term. Make sure that you're drinking water as you can, when you can. But for me, I swear by iZotope's mouth declicker. iZotope's RX, their audio repair suite. The declicker, they have a couple different declickers. Their essential version, their essential suite. I did make a video on that somewhat, but I do highly recommend the iZotope declicker. I throw it on everything that I do, literally everything. Can't swear by it enough. And yes, in audiobooks, you are the casting director, somewhat. Although I have had a few authors recently ask me specific things, or like they give me sort of actor prototypes, like this character should be played by Jake Gyllenhaal in the movie. And I'm like, okay, cool. Which is helpful to hear. What else? Got time for a few more questions, I believe, if y'all have any burning, and I'll scroll down here in the question catalog to see if I roll across anything. Have I met any VOs or actors that I've admired? I'm going to dive into Joni's question. So they've paid her to narrate 3 of the books, and they want to use those files to upload into a 4th compilation book and pay only for the opening and closing credit files. That's kind of dubious. If it's the same material in the fourth book that you've already recorded for them, I don't see an issue with it. But per like Audible and sound, Spotify and things like that, you're not allowed to do that. You can't use duplicate audio for multiple books. So my guess on that would be, that's tough to say. If you're not having to do the work for their fourth book, provided that they're not like using your files to like AI generate the fourth book or something crazy like that, I don't see an issue with it as long as you're not having to do the work. But at the same time, if it's a completely different book that they're recording with the same, that's really odd to me. All to say, Joni, if you've done the work, they're not asking you to do more work. I personally don't see an issue with it. But if they're if it seems shady, don't feel shy about asking for details, because if they're using your voice in some sort of weird way or your work, just look out for yourself there. That sounds like an odd one. Let's see. Romance series are fun. Oh, Psychopath. Yes. The door is soundproof. Well, this booth is mostly soundproof. It deadens quite a bit. Finishing a 90K word novel. Protagonist is a 17-year-old male. Genre is action-adventure. Should you be open to having any age or gender audition, or should you use someone close in age? That's a great question, Charles. I think it's up to you ultimately. If you're open to hearing lots of different voices, cast a wide net, because you might find somebody who surprises you. But at the same time, I don't think it's necessary that you need someone close in age. A lot of folks, like myself, I've narrated books. I narrated a memoir for like a 70-year-old man. I've narrated 2 memoirs for people in their 70s and 60s. So vocal quality can be surprising. And I would listen objectively without the person's identity in mind. Cast a wide net, because if you find a female voice that fits your book perfectly, hell yeah. A prototype. Interesting. Accent switching speed. You know, in a recent book, I can't remember which it was, but there was a German character and a Russian character, and they were talking to each other, and then there was a Polish character as well. And for some reason, switching between German and Russian was really challenging. Additionally, I do a lot of work in a UK accent. It's sort of like a naturalized thing where people just, I am a UK talent for some folks. So switching between regional UK accents is really facile. I can do that pretty quickly. However, switching between a UK and an Australian accent is so difficult for me. To the point now where in a book I just recently had to do, there was a character with an Australian accent, and I had to do lines over a couple times because I kept switching into like a Scottish or an Irish at times, which was challenging. So it really depends on the book, and honestly, context of the accents. If it's one accent by itself, it's easy. But if it's 5 accents that I got to flip between, that's tough. Take your name. All right, if you can clip this. Hey, all, you're listening to Emu Studios. Oh, Seb, you're in London. Namaste. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a weird double standard. I don't know if you feel this way, or at least it feels a double standard, where Brits who have a flawless American accent are like, wow, I can't tell. But as soon as an American tries a British accent, and probably deservedly so after years of butchering them, but I always get a side eye where like, oh, but he's like, in one of the books I heard a review somewhere where they were like, the narrator puts on this accent, and I took like weird offense to that phrase, puts on that accent. I don't know why. It was totally unjustified on my part. They liked the book though. All right. Last couple questions. If you have them, fire them my way. And this has been, if you want to see more of this stuff, if this is helpful for you, I would be happy to set more of these up. It was challenging to figure out all the technical hoo-ha, but I think we got there. Thanks for stopping by, my friend. Let's see. Scrolling for any other questions. My daily routine. Fair enough, Vandine. Fair enough. Yeah, it was cool. I got a really excellent comment in grad school. I was doing a show where I had to play a regional Brit, and the head of my program is a Brit himself, and he brought someone from England, and he was trying to pick out his countrymen within the cast, and he asked if I was one, so that was a little feather in my cap for being a passing Brit. Exciting projects coming up. We're gonna have more of the Lance Spector books coming out soon, so I'm looking forward to digging into those. Gained so much experience. Now that I've gained so much experience, what's the main thing I struggle with as a VO artist on a daily or weekly basis? Great question. For a long time, I struggled to take time off. A big reason was because this was my full-time gig. I was putting all of my time. This was sort of my sink or swim business for my life, my household. And that sort of pressure is okay for a time. It was really helpful to drive me to learn a lot of stuff really quickly, to try new things, to work really hard. But that wasn't sustainable. So learning to take breaks and be firm with my clients to say, hey, I'm not available. You cannot call me. If somebody has a rush project where they're like, we need this by Monday, I will charge a steep overage fee for working on the weekend now. And all those things were things that I just wasn't able to do when I was starting out, because I felt like if I didn't say yes to everything, that I would be missing something. And surprise, surprise, I probably wasn't. It's hard to say from where I'm sitting, but I think if I could go back to myself, I would say, listen, dude, just take it slower. So on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, learning to do that was really challenging for a long time. And now my struggle is sort of, where do I go from here? Because as we all know with this business, it goes in peaks and valleys. You have bursts with a lot of work and then dry periods where nothing happens. And finding like a sustainable structure for myself day in and day out has been I'm a very structured and regimented person naturally, so it kind of falls into my nature to figure that stuff out in that way. But I lost it. Learning to just work sustainably, I guess, is the main thing that I struggle with. And not treating everything like life or death. I lost a really, really dear client to me. I'd worked with them for 2 years. Last Friday, they let me know that they're going in a different direction. And it's been tough. It's been tough to lose clients like that. But every time a door like that has closed, because for me, when my grad school experience ended and I had no prospects, when I lost other jobs, when I auditioned for stuff and it didn't work out, when I was doing a job and it didn't go well, all of the setbacks and failures and times when people said no thanks have led me to new opportunities that I wouldn't have found otherwise. And so recognizing those moments on a daily basis is really, really valuable for me. And you know what, Preston? I think that is a great note to wrap things up here. I'll try and schedule another one of these for y'all soon. If you have any questions about anything else, as always, you're welcome to drop me a line here, reach out on my website. And as always, until the next one of these, be well, and I'll see you soon. Have a great rest of your week and weekend. Bye, everybody.